Hello and welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast, the show where we help you establish your author brand, increase the size of your audience, and sell more books. I'm Lindsay Baroker, and I'm here with Jeffrey Poole and Joe Lalo. And we were supposed to have a guest tonight, but I don't know, we might have got our time zones mixed up or something, so we never heard back from her, so maybe we'll reschedule her, or maybe she will just appear in the middle of the show. So we decided last minute we're just going to talk amongst ourselves about NaNoWriMo since that's starting on Sunday. And we're going to share some tips for staying motivated, which can definitely be a challenge since it takes place during November, and that is, in the US anyway, Thanksgiving month and leading up to the Christmas holidays and everything, and things tend to get crazy for people. So it's not really a marketing topic, but we will try to maybe work that in there at least in some way.
No, wait a minute. Don't people actually write for the NaNoWriMo and then actually release it as a book and then market the book? So it's kind of works.
There you go. I think like 3 people do that. But yeah, we'll see if we can work some tips in somewhere.
So for those that don't know what that, if they've ever seen that funky looking word, NaNoWriMo, what's it stand for?
NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month. And that month is November.
I can see Joe hitting the buzzer and like, I know the answer to that one.
Okay, I've heard the number 50,000 before. Is it like trying to write something in a month's time that's at least 50,000 words long?
Yeah, it's basically a sort of an honor system, self-imposed writing challenge where you will you have to write a novel, and that is, you get to define what is complete for your novel because no one's reading it but you. And you have to get 50,000 words written within the month of November. That's the NaNoWriMo challenge.
It ends up being about 1,667 words a day, roughly.
That's right. Roughly, yeah.
Okay, now I've heard of this. I've never participated in it. So the question I would have is, why should I participate in this? What's the appeal? Is it going for somebody, or are you just for your own personal gain, or what is it?
I think that the primary thing with NaNoWriMo is, number one, just to sort of prove to yourself you can do that sort of thing. It's also sort of a communal experience, so you're writing with a lot of other people. I think the key part of this isn't so much for people who are already authors, but people who want to be authors. Like, well, you've always wanted to write a book. Here's your chance to do it right now. Make it happen. I think that's sort of the idea behind NaNoWriMo. And there's also sort of a carrot dangling at the end of the stick, because you do get some prizes for completing, the challenge.
And also because everybody else is doing it at the same time. They have a big website. You can log on to forums and kind of get psyched up by other people that are going through all the same stuff you're going through. Tends to be no matter where you are in the world, there are like, I don't want to call them chapters, but there's like meetup groups. There's different people sign up from each region, and they actually do things together. And hey, I think we have a guest. Hello, Jill. Are you there? Uh-oh. Well, we saw somebody log on, so we think she's there.
Stand by, everyone.
Yeah.
Hi.
There you are.
Hello.
Here I am, and I'm getting a screen share set up. Hang on, so that it doesn't just say you.
All right, we're live already. We were not sure if you were going to make it, so we started talking about NaNoWriMo, but we will happily skip over and start talking about Kindle Scout whenever you're ready.
Oh, you know what? I truly apologize because I thought we said half hour. Give me one more second, and I'll be right back.
It's no problem.
No problem. I usually assume it's my fault because I've messed up time zones on people before.
Right. I didn't get off work until 19 minutes ago. So.
Oh no.
Right. Hang on, thank you.
This will be an instance where I will edit the audio for the release so that it will appear as though things were perfectly normal. And this is what we call a bonus episode for the viewers.
For the people who are watching, our 7 people who watch on YouTube, they get to enjoy the tech issues and all that kind of thing.
But okay, so real quickly though, as long as we're still waiting here with the NaNoWriMo, can anybody join? Is there like a fee to get started? I mean, how would someone go ahead and get involved with this?
It does not cost anything.
Yep, absolutely free. You just gotta. Well, you don't even really have to, but you just basically sign on to the website, and then you give the name of the book, the synopsis, and the word count by day if you so choose.
And it's NaNoWriMo.org.
Yep.
And you can make writing, you can like pick people to be your writing buddies and see how many words, like at the end of every day, you kind of record your words and you get a little chart that shows your progress. And you will always have at least one writing buddy that does the whole 50,000 words in like 2 days. And you will want to kill that person.
I mean,
And that's perfectly normal.
Like you, Lindsay?
No, I don't write that fast.
Or if you're in my group, you have one person who does 150,000 in a weekend and then keeps going.
They'll never publish those people for the most part. I don't know what they're writing, but as long as it makes them happy to write it, they've got like 10 books and an epic fantasy tome going on.
Yeah, it happens.
But for the most part, you can see most people will like shoot for that 1,500 to 2,000 words a day, and it's actually kind of encouraging. I think it helps you stay motivated when you have other people that are going through the same thing at the same time. And if you happen to be somebody that's never finished a novel yet, it's especially geared towards you, because it's like, this is your chance. You know, everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Join in and be one of the cool kids and write a novel too.
So are you trying to complete the book in 30 days, or just write at least 50,000 words of said book in 30 days?
The overall idea is to have a 50,000 word plus novel written. I think a lot of people just consider, if I get 50,000 words of a novel written that started within that month, they'll usually call that a win. Because again, you're sort of not being you're not being kept honest in any way. They just care about the raw number of words.
Yeah, ideally you will finish the novel and then go edit it, perhaps send it to your critique group and with the thought of publishing it someday, but that's not required. But yeah, as long as you, at the end, they tell you to copy and paste in your words, and as long as there's 50,000 words, you are a winner.
Interesting. Debating on whether or not I should try that.
It's fun. Plus, the thing about it is because so many other people are doing it, you sort of like, once you announce I'm writing a book, you sort of you're under the spotlight now. You've told your friends you're going to do it. So now you can't like weasel out without very publicly having done so.
And from the marketing point of view, a lot of people would do hashtag NaNoWriMo in Twitter during that month, so you can actually make writing buddies through Twitter that way and possibly sneak in some links to your website. I know a lot of authors will do a write-up like advice on how to finish NaNoWriMo or what to do after you've done your 50,000 words. So it can be a way to like get some people, new people checking out your blog posts, because people will go through and look for those hashtags and see if there's anything interesting in the Twitter stream.
Interesting.
All right. Are we about ready to do the stated topic?
I'm ready for it.
Okie dokie.
All right.
Do we want to redo the intro or just roll on through?
Oh, we can. I don't know. Maybe we can have two versions. Special bonus episode with extra content.
People will love it.
I will just give Jill's introduction and not read the show intro again. You know how I'm not that crazy about reading that anyway.
Righto.
All right, Jill, are you ready for us?
I'm ready for you, as ready as I can be, I suppose.
Okay, well, for everybody who's listening, I saw Jill's post, I believe it was on Kboards, and she's done a guest post too on, I took away my tab, but somebody's blog. About
Steve Vernon's blog.
Steve Vernon's blog about how she was a Kindle Scout winner and kind of like what all was involved in that and whether it's worth doing if you're already self-publishing or if you're new to it. So I wanted to invite her on the show to talk about it because I think it's something a lot of people would be interested in. Jill's little bio from Amazon says she is a writer, musician, and artist, and the author of the Fae Unbound young adult fantasy series, as well as two books in her paranormal comedy, the Bad Tom series. The first book, The Familiar, is her Kindle Scout winner. Well, welcome to the show, Jill.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right, thanks for rushing home from work and joining us tonight.
I work from home. It was really more a matter of a snack before.
Well, that's important. You don't want to get low blood sugar while you're chatting with us on the show. All right. Well, why don't you start out just telling us a little bit about how you got started writing and what led you to self-publishing?
Well, I like most writers, I think, or at least half of them that I talk to, you start very young in life. When I was in second grade, I wrote a poem that my teacher put on the board and gave a gold star and said it was really, really good. And so, after that, I pretty much continued writing poems because I thought, well, I'm good at this. I will have to continue it, much to the chagrin of everyone I've ever known since then. So I was the teenager who was writing stories about my friends and distributing them around the neighborhood, that kind of thing. But I went to school for an English degree after that because I still continued to think I was good at this. And so what happened was that I got that degree and then real life hit. And that was pretty much the end of my writing after having a few things in small press and that kind of thing, mostly, college kind of related small press. So, so I didn't really get back to writing novels again until 2012. And I decided to self-publish when I was actually copy editing for a friend of mine whose book I had asked to read. And I realized I was spending so much time on this. He wasn't into it. I was way more into it than he was. And I said, well, why am I doing this for him when I could, do my own? And so I said, it's time. I sat down, I wrote my first novel, which I then self-published with absolutely no knowledge of self-publishing whatsoever. And of course, that didn't go that well. But I then discovered keyboards and began to understand more and more about self-publishing as I went.
All right. What made you decide to switch from poetry to writing fantasy?
You know what? I actually went to college. I wanted to write the great American novel. I was going to write lit fic, and was incredibly bad at it. Really very poor at it. So when I started writing again, I said, I just want to do it for fun. I want to write something that's fun for me, that after the reality of a long, stressful day, I get to be in full control of somebody's universe, even if it's not mine. And so I think that's the appeal of fantasy to me, is that I can do anything I want and create any rules I want. And then I get to go play in that universe. So, that for me, that's why I enjoy writing a fantasy instead of something more important.
All right. Well, we all like fantasy here too. We're mostly fantasy people with some science fiction mixed in. What did you learn from your first? Is it a trilogy, or are you going to do more books in the series?
I'm currently actually writing during NaNoWriMo the fourth book in that series, because I pretty much write during NaNoWriMo months because I hate writing, but I love editing. So I get the books written in the month, and then I go on from there, and I owe my readers this one because I've been promising it for a long time, and then this other series got in the way. So, but there is a very small number of readers, so it doesn't, that pressing. But I really would like to get the book to them.
Yeah. Are you finding that it's like as the series continues, is it getting any easier with the marketing, or are you still trying to kind of find your audience with that young adult series?
I never really found an audience. I have a small number of dedicated fans, enough for me to want to continue writing it, obviously. I don't make much money off of the book. I've never really found, quote unquote, the audience. I did learn through keyboards about perma-free about 2 weeks before Kindle Unlimited burst out of the the options, but I decided to stick with it. And so I've kept that series wide, and basically I promo it about every 3 months. I give away thousands of copies, and from that I get a few sales through to the next book. And so, yeah, I haven't really found an audience for it.
All right.
But that's okay. I still like
okay.
it.
That's good that you're, as long as you're still enjoying it, that definitely helps.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to take the switch to the paranormal comedy? Are they romances at all, or more just?
It's a paranormal romantic comedy in the sense that there is an overarching romance in the book, but not a, heavy romance. It is a miscued, confusing romance, which is the only kind I know anything about. And but it isn't heavy romance. It's really a very light, kind of silly, chick-litty paranormal book. I like to say that I write fantasy with a smirk. That's what I look at. And so this book really is the same as, not the same storyline, I hope, but really the same as my young adult books, which are lighthearted fantasy with a lot of grim adventure that you deal with in a lighthearted way. And that's, so it's hard for me to say what my book is. This was as close as I got to tell anybody what you're going to see when you read this book.
All right, well, you've got the screenshot up here of the covers, and they look very cute, and like they'd be a lot of fun, so.
I hope they are. But of course, my first review said, I missed the comedy completely, and I really thought it was rather sad. And I was like, oh gosh, I hope they're not all like that. And they haven't been, so that's been nice.
That's good. It's always great when the first review that shows up is like one of the not nicer ones that come in.
And yet it said, but it was well written. So I was kind of happy about that.
All right. Well, let me hand you to the guys. I know they have some questions too before we jump back to the Kindle Scout stuff.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, I guess my first thing is, looks like The Familiar and its upcoming sequel, Witch Risen, have gotten a much quicker release, much quicker release schedule than some of your earlier stuff. Did you plan the releases that close together ahead of time, or have you been able to increase your productivity lately?
I actually have not increased my productivity. The Familiar was actually written in April of 2014, Witch Risen 4 months after that. And I was holding on to them because my marketing plan was to release all of the books at the same time, within a couple months of each other, because I thought, well, that seems to be a way to keep the the juice of the series going as you go along. So I blew that because I put it in Kindle Scout and it won. So I couldn't really quite go with that because I haven't finished the third one yet. But it's I'm no more productive. I work full time. 3 books a year is about what I can handle, and I need a lot of editing time because that's where the magic happens. So.
Well, I guess having your timetable pushed forward because you won basically a contract is a good reason to have your timetable moved.
Exactly.
All right, we've discussed in the past how getting specific with your genre can be a double-edged sword. Because on one hand, finding a niche can help you stand out because it's a smaller pool of titles. And on the other hand, if the niche is too small, then you're never going to get enough readers for it to really be worthwhile. The Bad Tom series bills itself as a paranormal romantic comedy, which was just discussed. How, you think that's helped or hurt your marketing?
You know what? I think it has helped a lot because it did at least put a tag on what it is I was writing for the people who like that kind of thing. Also, when you look at those covers, I ran those by people at K-Boards, and I said, do these look like kids' books, or are they hitting kind of the audience that I would be looking at, which is like, I want to hit the audience like H.P. Mallory, Charlene Harris, that kind of book. And Amanda M. Lee, who I'm sure you guys know, incredibly prolific writer of witch cozies, said, well, it looks like witch cozies to me. And I'm like, okay, I am going to keep these covers because she said so, and if she says so, she knows what she's talking about. And it actually seems to have been a correct move in terms of the audience that I really did want to target, because that's what my also bots are full of, those kinds of books and those readers that those were the people I wanted, who want a little snark maybe with their adventure and their urban fantasy and their shifters, not the ones that are looking more for the beefy body cover shifter books. I mean, I wrote a book about a kitten shifter. So, it's not going to be that kind of book, so I think I did target, and I think there's a big market for that, particularly in Kindle Unlimited. Those books are extremely popular, and the readers are very voracious with those books.
Yeah,
did I answer that, or did I just ramble?
You absolutely answered it. The question was, did it help or hurt? You explained how it helped, so
Yay.
Well done. I got to say, on the subject covers, because whenever you speak, we get to see them, you did a very good job, I feel. That's what we talk about, series covers. One of the hardest parts is making it clear, giving a series theme to your covers while each cover is distinct, and you're you have strong character representation on your covers and stuff. So I definitely give the thumbs up to your covers.
Thank you, because I'm very proud I did them myself.
Good work.
Yeah.
And I have one more question, and that this was established earlier, but I'll just ask it anyway. Now you've gotten started on this new series. I understand you haven't closed up shop on the previous series. So I should say, how you're going to plan on moving forward with each of these series? Are you going to alternate, or are you going to plan out your releases in clusters?
I've got this actually, since I'm writing the final, what is not necessarily the final book in this series, but which leaves the young adult series at a good closing point for my readers, so that if it does end up being the final book, they would be okay with that,
Okay.
And so if it never finds an audience, I may leave it, and I may not come back to it, because I may decide I really want to keep writing these witchy books. If I do well with them, I would be silly not to continue writing witchy books. But the Bad Tom series is by design just three books. And so I'll have written, I write the last one in the Fae series and the last one in the Bad Tom series. But after that, I have some ideas about some cozy mysteries using characters from the Bad Tom universe, because I've got some characters I really love that I want to bring to the forward. And I also have some other series that I have all outlined. So my problem is lots of ideas and not enough time. And, I'm sure you guys all know that, though. It's like, yeah if only I could, stay awake 24 hours a day.
Yeah, the time seems to always be the biggest problem.
Yep.
All right, well, that concludes my questions. I'm going to hand you off to Jeff now for a few more.
Alrighty, so you got your Fae Unbound series and you got your Bad Tom series, and you've already admitted that they're pretty much not the same genre. I mean, how many readers do you think will have followed or will follow you from the one series to the new one?
I believe that all of the readers from my first series followed me to the new one, because I have so few of them that they're very easy to keep track of. And so,
That's one way to phrase it.
I have a small mailing list, and I have, fans who are my Facebook friends. And so really, I think a lot of the early sales on the Bad Tom series were from my mailing list, because I did not give that up for Kindle Scout. I was like, no, I don't want to have them all get a free book. Then what happens when it actually launches? No one will buy it. So I held on to that, and I held on to my Facebook people. And so I really think that a lot of them did follow, because when I sent out my information about it and when I blogged about it, I made it clear how they are very similar. Because while my first series is a young adult series, there are no young adults reading that series. They're all older people who are really just looking for something escapist without a lot of sex and a lot of violence, I think.
Right.
And so it's going to be the same thing. It's what I write, so.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally sympathize. My fantasy series, there's some violence, but I flag it PG-13. I mean, there's a little bit of swearing. There's no sex. There's no nasty profanity or anything like that. It pretty much is lighthearted, fun-filled adventure stories there. So yeah, I can relate. You mentioned Facebook. I mean, what other type of social media presence do you have? I mean, do you Twitter at all? Do you have your own personal blog?
I have several websites, because I've always been a on the web person, because I'm a tech. And I originally had a book blog where I was just doing a lot of reviews and supporting indie writers. But before that, that same website was an indie music site, and I was a DJ and a podcaster for indie musicians, because I'm also a musician. But I have, a blog and website for the Fae Unbound series itself, and then which I'll continue to really promote any YA things that I write from that website. And then I have jillnojack.com, which is my blog, and eventually I want to have jillnojack.wtf, because I own the domain, and I've put a little website there where I can just rant about things without readers finding it. And so, and not about
WTF,
readers.
Huh?
WTF, yes. And so I thought I really need that for when I want to rant about self-publishing or those kinds of things, and you just say to my friends, hey, you want to read my stupid article? Here it is. It's at the other Jill Nojack site.
I see. Do you feel authors should have more of a presence online, whether they're building brands, interacting with fans, and so forth?
I think that authors should, but I will never because I'm a huge introvert and I hate it and I don't want to do it. And so, that's just how it works. If you don't like it, you're not going to do it, whether or not you know it's
Sure.
good for you. And so, yes,
Well,
I just really admire people who can get out there and just do that, because
well,
I
we've
know
heard.
I can't.
Yeah, we've heard from a lot of of our guests that say like there's a lot of introverts that apparently are writers, and they all say the same sort of thing. Like, okay, well, it's easier to hide behind like a facade out on Facebook, or you can do whatever you want to do because it's not an actual face-to-face confrontation there. But
Right,
yeah,
but I like my people one-to-one, not one to the internet. You know what I mean? I
very
like people, I have no problem with that, and I'm not quote-unquote shy. It's just that I just don't really get this whole, hey, look at me. I don't get it. And so I can't do it. Although I'd love to, but I cannot do it.
all right. That's my questions regarding that. Let me pass you back over to Lindsay for some questions on Kindle Scout.
All right, you caught me looking up witch cozies online. I had never heard that term before. I was like, maybe I need to be writing some witch cozies. No, I'd love to get Amanda on the podcast someday, but it took her like a year or two to go not incognito on a keyboard, so I don't know if she'd be up
Oh,
for it.
she's great. I was in my camp she was in my cabin for Camp Nano for Camp Rimo last time, and it was inspirational to watch her write 2 books and a novella while I struggled through my small book.
Yeah, she's very prolific for sure.
Yep.
All right, now for those of us here who are not that familiar with the Kindle Scout program, could you give us an overview of what it is?
Okay. That's what I'm here for. I better be able to do that or we're in a lot of trouble. Kindle Scout basically is Amazon's newish program. I think that the first winners went out in March to involve readers in the selection of books. And also, I think the other sort of unstated is to provide a pool of reviewed books that have been, had a gatekeeper on them in Kindle Unlimited, because I think Kindle Unlimited maybe has a little bit of an image problem with the readers who go to it and go, well, all I can find is these erotica books. And, there are people who are looking for something other than that, and it's difficult to find these things. So I think that they're trying to get sort of a pool of books that have the stamp of approval of Amazon on them. I'm not sure, but it seems to me that that is kind of what is happening based on the kind of books they select in the program. But authors go in, they submit their books, they've got a 45-day commitment to the Scout campaign and the decision that Scout will make on the book, which you try to get people to nominate your book for publication. But it is not strictly a popularity contest, because there are books that stay in what's called the hot and trending, which is right on the front page there for the entire time, that's based on nominations, who do not get selected. Those books, and the books aren't selected. Nobody really knows why. And then there are other books that are almost never in hot and trending, which are selected, because the final choice on the books is obviously by the Kindle Scout team. And those books are reviewed by human eyes. So probably the hot and trending helps to make sure that your book gets in front of human eyes for a review. But at the end of that 45 days, they make a decision, and they tell you whether or not they're going to publish you. And really, it's for publication-ready books. So this is great for self-publishers, because we have those. We know what we're doing. We know that we need a good cover. We know we need a good blurb. We know we need copy editing. We know these things. So it's a great marketing tool for that reason, really.
All right, and did you have your cover already ready, or were they already published, or do you have to hold them back and not publish them until you put them in the contest?
No, as long as the book has not been published. So you can't publish the book in any format. So it has to be brand new to be put in Scout. But I'd already put my covers up going, hey, I'm writing this book, and the covers were already there, because I created the covers before I finished writing any of them because the covers were so cute. And basically, I liked the covers, so that means, well, I'm going to write the books now. And but just the book cannot be published beforehand in any format. So you really can't have published it on your blog, any of that. It has to be totally unpublished, and that's really important as part of the rules.
Okay, and what exactly do you get if you become the winner? What's in it for you?
You get a $1,500 advance against your royalties, which is kind of a nice thing to have. You get marketing by the by Kindle Press, which is no small thing to have, because no matter how good any of us are at marketing or what we understand about it, all the research we put into it, Amazon is better at it than we are. So there's always that factor, is that you are guaranteed when you're selected that Amazon is going to market your book because they have an investment in it and they want to make money. You also get copy editing. Now, your book should be copy edited beforehand, because the choice, because that is really a critical part of it. But they will copy edit it afterwards, because I think many of the early books that they selected there were people said, hey, well, this isn't copy edited very well, so I think they started adding an additional layer. And yes, the book will only show on, it's only available on Amazon. You keep your paperback rights. They get your audiobook rights, and they get your audiobook rights, and they get your ebook rights, but you keep your paperback, hardback if you want that. And then you'll also be in the Kindle Unlimited program.
Having trouble hitting my mute button tonight, or unhitting it. We're having all kinds of technical difficulties tonight. All right, and did you say how much a royalty percentage they take?
The royalty percentage is 50%. It's 50%. Okay. So self-published is 70%. So the way I've kind of looked at it is that I have been spending about 30% of my profit for on my royalties profit on marketing my books. So if I'm giving Amazon 20% to market my book, I'm probably getting a pretty good deal.
Right, and is that just the first book in your series, or is it kind of like being with one of their publishing houses or arms or whatever you call them, and they take on the whole thing?
If you want an additional book in your series in the Scout program, it has to go back through a Scout campaign. I never intended I never intended to win, so I was like, well, what do I do now? But I wasn't going to put the second book in, because I was like, well, how are they going to independently promote the second book? The only ad I have for a series that works the way my series does, which is, it follows right on from the first one. The only ad I have is the first book. So for me, it would be silly. I didn't want to give them 20% of my royalties for that. So.
Right, and for those who aren't sneaking around on the internet and checking things out the way I am here, it definitely looks like the first book is sold well, and it's gotten some good reviews. So it seems like it might be worth checking out.
It's been really kind of exciting, but you also have to realize that because for me, getting up into ranks like above 5,500, it's still at 7, and I fell off the 30-day cliff a few days ago. And then it went back up again. I'm like, huh? And I haven't had any promotion except for being in the UK New and Notable for fantasy, which sold me a number of books, because it's hard to promote in the UK. Anyway, so I was really excited about that. But now I've lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Let me get it back. There are books that fall down and go away. The book that launched with me is very nice contemporary romance, but as I was, doing well, it was sort of sinking. There's a reason for this, and people need to understand this, I think, about the program if they're selected, is that unlike indies where we kind of promote right up front, we want that really strong launch. They don't do any promotions, maybe a little bit of merchandising, some small amount of merchandising in the first 30 days, sometimes nothing for some of the books. After 30 days, the book qualifies for some of the things that are called shovelers, like the big banner and books for $2 and haunting reads like they have right now in Kindle Unlimited or fall romance. And then after 90 days, you qualify for a higher level of promotion. And some of the older books now are getting daily deals, BookBubs that Kindle Press is paying for their BookBub ad, which is like, yeah, I want that. I want what he's having, you know? And hopefully someday when my book is able to be promoted at that level, I can get that, which, you know, I've never been able to get a BookBub on my own. So if they can get me one, I would just like be doing the happy dance.
Yeah, great for them to pay for it too, especially if you happen to be in mystery or romance or something where it's like $1,000 for an ad.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I just think that that's really impressive that they do that level of promotion for the books. But of course, it's those books are doing incredibly well. Desmond Done's books, Rob Blackwell's, one of the books, Soraya Wilson's book. All those books are doing really well. And we have a little group where we share our joys and frustrations, and it's really exciting to see those people getting those kinds of opportunities through Kindle Scout. But then there's people there who are, you know, pretty disappointed about what's happening. It's not a guarantee in any stretch of the imagination. And you lose the ability to say, well, let's put it on sale, and I'd like the price to be, and I'm going to do this. You don't have that ability. That's the part you lose, is that any control over pricing.
All right, and are you up against all the other genres when you enter this? Is it like they pick one per quarter or one per month?
You know, I think they just pick any good books that they think they can sell. And so there isn't a standard number. Prior to when I was selected, they hadn't selected a book for like 3 weeks. And it was like, okay, maybe they're lessening their commitment, or maybe they're not going to pick anymore. Well, how could I possibly win? They just passed up MCA Hogarth's book. No way am I winning. And so we don't, you know, it's hard to tell exactly what they're doing and how many they select. I think that they pick as many books in as many genres as they think they can sell from the books that are on the site. And I think there are some genres that they think they can't sell, because I've seen a lot of really nice-looking epic fantasy get passed over. And the one epic fantasy book they do have has not done well in the Scout program, as far as I can tell.
All right, well, I guess I won't be putting any books in there into consideration next month. That's all right. It would be horrible for my ego if I got turned down.
Well, you know,
I bring all my fans and nothing.
But you know, and I think too that there are people who just are going to who are already doing too well to really want to be in the program. Do you know what I mean? Because you really have to look at, what is it guaranteed to give me? Well, it's not guaranteed to get you anything. Do you know what I mean? And that's the real part. So for someone like me who had no sales prior to this, really, I a little bit, you know, I make $150 a month on my series. Woohoo! You know, but for me, that's like amazing. Yes! But to now have a book where I'm actually going to make something that is, you know, not 5 cents an hour, that's like phenomenally good for me. But it might not look that hot to other people. You know what I mean? There are people who would look at that and go, well, you know, you're only ranking at like, you know, 7,500 and.
Well, right. I suppose at some point, you have to weigh in whether giving up 20% of your earnings is worth what they're giving you. And
Exactly.
Do you find that any people in Kindle Scout get picked to be in their publishing programs?
There have been some people who have been picked for, I got this wrong the last time, because I said Thomas and Mercer, and no one has been picked for Thomas and Mercer. But for their imprints in general, Montlake, I believe Soraya Wilson has been selected to be, and I probably got that wrong, so I'm just going to take it back. But Montlake and Little A are the publishing imprints, and they, you know, those are the premium imprints. And with Kindle Scout, you know, they don't even call it an imprint. It's Kindle Press. It's the Amazon imprints and Kindle Press, which also does Kindle Worlds. So it's, you know, it's a little bit off to the side of that larger publishing empire they're building. But there have been selected. You can get selected. But for instance, Ted Oswald, who just had a book selected for Kindle Scout, the first book of that is actually on an Amazon imprint. And so, I don't know why he would have submitted to Kindle Scout, probably because it wasn't going to continue in the Amazon imprint, and so he put it into the Scout program instead. I didn't ask him. I probably should have asked him before I said it. But so it can go both ways, you know what I mean? He's previously been on an imprint, and now he's in Kindle Scout. So, but I think that the primary experience that people need to understand is this is not a, trial for an Amazon imprint. There's a specific reason they take the books that they take, and the books that they put somewhere else typically are not. They don't start in Kindle Scout and then they take it onto an Amazon imprint. They were actually selected for Scout, and then prior to publication on Scout, they were taken over into the imprint.
Okay, well, one last question for me before I have to let the guys talk again. You kind of said it's not completely a popularity contest, but I guess I've heard that you do kind of need to do some marketing and try to stay on that trending thing you were talking about. Did you find that was true, and what did you do?
I don't even know if what I did would work anymore. I posted in lots and lots of Facebook groups, the free book groups and paranormal readers books and paranormal author groups. And I was kind of lucky in that some of the paranormal book bloggers picked up my posts and gave them to their audience, which really, really helped me a lot. It was just really fabulous to see happen. And I'm like, yay, because I am not a social media person, and this was pretty much all I was going to be able to do was the Facebook groups. And so that worked out really well for me. But I have a friend right now who has a thriller up on Kindle Scout, who I'm helping him with his campaign, and I just did all the same things for him. And he didn't hit the hot and trending at all, whereas when I did it, it stayed on the hot and trending. So things are changing. It's becoming more competitive. There are just simply more books in there, and it's harder to stay up there. But I think, but do not know, because they're not talking. But I think the purpose of the hot and trending and getting people to the site is to really see if your book is visible. Will people who are visiting the site incidentally find it? Because they're looking for books that readers find of interest. If every person that nominates your book was someone you sent there, they know that, because they actually give you a little chart that shows you how many people, how many of your page views were from people external to Kindle Scout site, and then people internal to Kindle Scout site. So people who were already there for another reason and then said, ooh, that looks cool, and came to visit your book instead. And I think that those, just because they provide that graph, it says to me, that's important somehow. It's if your book is visible and people are going, ooh, let me take a look, that weren't sent there by you, I think that's important. But how do you get those people? You have to be visible, and you got to be in that hot and trending list to be visible to those people who are incidentally visiting the site.
All right, yeah, it sounds like cover art would definitely be helpful to kind of pull people in who aren't familiar with you. And
very helpful.
All right, well, let me pass you to Joe to ask some questions on the same subject.
Yep. A lot of this stuff has sort of been covered, but I'm gonna sort of drill in a little deeper on it. Okay, Kindle Scout provides you with an advanced and a multi-year renewable terms contract. Is essentially a form of a traditional publishing contract, which what I'd like to know is, you said that you don't really have any control over the price of the book. Is it the price, like, do they choose the original price of the book?
They do choose the original price of the book. And if you take a look at the price ranges and the page count, it seems to be pretty much, if you're between this and this, you're this. The books are all $2.99, $3.49, or $3.99. And my book is very short because that's the way I write. And so it's at $2.99. And that's what I would have priced it at. As the first book in a series, that's what I would have done. So I don't have any complaints with that whatsoever.
Okay, and do you have any, basically, do you have any control whatsoever of the book, or is it behind a wall as far as you're concerned, and you can't even say mess with the cover?
You have absolutely pre-publication control of that book. The cover, obviously the interior. They do copy editing, but you can refuse, and they're not going to not publish it because you said, well, I don't really want to make that change. You do the blurb. It's your cover, except there have been a couple of books where they have suggested that the cover be changed, and I think that if Amazon tells you maybe that's not a great cover, you would probably want to change it, and at that point they already have, they're going to get it in advance, so yay, it's worth investing a little money in it. But the other part, once you've done your back matter, and once you've done your front matter, those are never changing. Once you submit that final book, you're not going to be able to change it again, which is, it's rough because you want to put the link to the next book in the back, but you can't do that. So, it's one of those things where you sort of have to plan for, like, where do I send them so that they find all my books, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Not changing the back matter isn't something I've thought about, and if you are using this as the launching point for a series, you sort of have to have some serious planning in place in order for that to be useful in that way.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, so this was covered a little bit, but it's a 50% royalty rate, which is pretty much right between the low and high tiers of KDP.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that you typically spent about 30% of your income, of your royalty, on advertising, and you've also got, like, they put you into BookBub and stuff like that, which I think is a pretty big benefit.
But not guaranteed.
No, nothing is
BookBubs are
guaranteed.
guaranteed, right? We don't want to, like, people go, oh, I'm going to get a BookBub, I gotta get that, and it's like, well, no, some people have. Some people.
Yeah.
Have.
What I think is key is that I want to say this being essentially a traditional publishing contract, even though it's not, it's not a typical, it's not a classic traditional publishing contract. It is of the same form. You do start getting some of the features that are in traditional publishing things, like help with marketing and stuff like that. And in the sense that you said that 20% potential royalty is a small price to pay for some of this help.
Mm-hmm, exactly, yeah. They know what they're doing much better than I do, even though I can try to second guess them. I suspect they would always come out ahead.
Yep, Amazon's very good at what they do.
Exactly.
We would not be so dependent upon them if they weren't. And just one more question then. Since Kindle Scout winners are selected by readers, actually two more things regarding this. They had to have found your book there. Do you think, therefore, you started off with a little bit more of a built-in audience than you had with previous titles?
No. In this instance, no, because you have to remember about the Kindle Scout program is that everybody who nominates your book gets a free copy. And if they get a free copy, you're not nobody to buy it. I mean, they want it. Well, they've already got it. But what you got out of that was during pre-order, they can actually write reviews. So this is another benefit of Kindle Scout, which you do not get with a normal pre-order. Once it goes out on pre-order and everybody gets their free books, they can write your review in advance. So I launched with, I think it was 18 reviews on my launch day, which was, it took me like a year to get 18 reviews on my first book. So I was really, really pleased by that. The second part of that is that those people also, in addition to that, the also bots are generated before you're, 2 days after you're on pre-order, you have a full selection of also bots, which includes the other Kindle Scouts and then all the other books that people buy. So mine were all paranormal romance readers, so for a while my also bots were not all that consistent with what my book was because they were more of the wolf shifter kind of book, but they, then they did slowly settle into more with the Kindle Scout books and the witchy books.
Okay. The other thing I was going to ask was what are the readers making their selections based on, and they are getting a full copy of the book.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I got to say, I probably wouldn't be a part of this program, but I give away an awful lot of free copies of my book early on to try to have early reviews. I can't have pre-order reviews, so. Right. Basically, if I had the capacity to do so without being part of this program, giving away free books during my pre-order period in exchange for reviews during my pre-order period is something I would absolutely be after. And it's a feature of this program that I'm glad I learned about at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the last of my questions, and I'll hand you off to Jeff for the last batch.
Alrighty. Okay. So, would you encourage all of our listeners to give the Kindle Scout program a try, or do you feel only certain people would benefit from this?
That's so hard to answer. Who are your listeners? I can tell you individually on each of the one. But the thing is that I think it's amazing for people like me who have had don't know how, haven't found an audience, and maybe came into the game a little later, because like a lot of the advice on marketing is go back into the past and do this. Do you know what I mean? It really is sort of things that worked 2 years ago don't work now. Things that worked 3 years ago, stopped working 2 years ago. So there's always something new coming along, and I think the Kindle Scout program is something kind of new and very cool for someone who's looking for that first step in without any kind of audience built up or any way to really build one, because you don't have this whole set of books with these lovely reviews out there yet, and you don't really know anyone who's going to promote you, and you don't have the money to put into that kind of promotion. So I think that's perfect for someone like that who knows that they're writing good books, who's putting all the work that they've learned about self-publishing by reading everything they can get their hands on, to do that. Now, who's going to be in there? I'm sure at the end of November, there's going to be a very large number of books deposited into Kindle Scout. And I think we all know that, and a lot of them are not going to meet the requirements, and Scout doesn't say, no, we're not going to do it. They're going to let but that those uncopy edited books are not going to be selected. They're just not. They aren't. It's over and over again demonstrated that if somebody has 4 or 5 proofreading problems in their blurb when I read it, even though I'm like, wow, that really looks interesting, they aren't selected for publication. I don't know if that's the reason, but it seems to me that there's something going on with the professionalism of that presentation. So people who can do that professional presentation but may not yet have gotten an audience are good people for that. Like I said, there are some people I think who are self-publishers who are probably just too big. They're not going to get the benefit out of it because they already launched at very high ranks. They get reviews very quickly. They get also bots very quickly, and they're probably not going to benefit. Amanda M. Lee asked me, so is this a guaranteed in the top 100 and blah blah blah? And I'm like, I think you're too big for this. I don't see any benefit that you could really gain from it, because her books always just come in. She's posting. She's just like a machine, and she's not going to do any better than she's doing in Kindle Scout because of that, really. And she loses the option to bonus with a Kindle Scout book because you can't earn the Kindle Unlimited bonus.
All right,
so if you're Amanda Emily, don't get in there and compete with the rest of us. We don't want you.
All right. So, hypothetical situation for you: if you create a brand new, or start working on a new series in a completely different genre, knowing now all the different stuff that you've experienced with the Kindle Scout program, would you submit this new book to the Kindle Scout?
You would have to ask me that 6 months from now, when I've seen, really seriously, when I've seen, because I'm not really eligible for promotion yet. You know what I mean? I'm just barely out of my 30-day period. So
provided
I have
you're
to find
eligible, of course.
Looking at if I was somebody like, I would say yes, I probably would. The first book in a series, yes. And I may do that because I have another series that's going to be coming up later that's not going to be witchy or smirky in any way. And I may even do it under a pen name because it's a much darker urban fantasy kind of thing, except what'll probably happen is that I will end up making it silly, at which point it'll be just like all my other books. But I probably would put that one in Kindle Scout because there's another benefit that I haven't mentioned, and I made a note to myself to mention, which is even if you lose, there are some real marketing benefits to the Kindle Scout program, because all those people that nominated you, at the end, when they send the okay, this person was a great big loser letter, you have a little thank you piece that you put in there, and you can put in, sign up for my my I had signed up for my new books notification list, and I got several signups. Even though I won, several people signed up for it. But if I had lost, I suspect those people would have also signed up for that new book notification. But there's also then a second email that Amazon sends out that unless you specifically click a link to say, I don't want this, that says, hey, so-and-so just published that book you liked on Kindle Scout, and gives the link. So the people that nominated you are going to be notified when your book is published, and those aren't going to be all people that you sent to nominate you, because you're going to have picked up other people from the Kindle Scout site. So there's also that pretty major benefit of really and picking up a lot of people who already have an interest in your book.
Alrighty. The last question I have for you is just one I'm actually kind of curious about. Is after you were notified that you won the Kindle Scout program, and did the program actually tell you, okay, that we're handling this, we're going to take care of this. This is what we need you to do now. We need you to take if you have a mailing list, blast them all at the same time. I'm just wondering if they made any recommendations of you.
They did not make any marketing recommendations at all. That's all just stuff that you decide on your own. I put a little bit of advertising. It's difficult to do when you have a full price book on my 30-day cliff, like a couple days after, because I was like, I want to see if I can keep it up, So I did that because I said I must have some sense of control, and it didn't help that much, but it did a little, and but any marketing that you do after that is up to you. You have to be careful about how you use the Kindle Scout name, because it is an Amazon brand, so they give you some instructions about that. But other than that, you're sort of on your own, and because it is they really are trying to be a hybrid between we're your publisher, but we're not control freaks. And it's sort of like that. And I think they do a good job walking the line and really asking for your input. And they're always available for you to give your input, whether or not they will use it. For instance, I wanted to provide my own Mobi file because I have my own cute little internal graphics I use for my headers, and I don't like that they put the table of contents right up in front in the Kindle books. And they said, yeah, no, but we will use your graphics, and we could discuss removing that table of content. Now, I know when to pick my battles, and I said, okay, I'll just have the butt ugly table of contents as long as you use my images, and they did, and so that can make it consistent with what I'd already designed my series and my books for, because I like formatting my own stuff. That's part of the joy of self-publishing for me.
Well, at least it's nice. It sounds like the negotiations are a two-sided conversation there, and not just you going, well, what do you think about this? No. Well, what
No,
about this?
absolutely.
No.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely. You're absolutely right. They do, and in fact, solicit your input early on. Give you the option to talk to one of their publishing representatives there. So I did that because I have a tendency to be a complete and total social isolate and never speak to anyone. And so I felt I really need to make some kind of connection with this so that I don't just sit around and go, well, I have to be passive now. And and so it was great. They were talking to very wonderful, friendly people, and excellent at listening to your needs as well as an author, because they know we're indies and we like to be in control of stuff.
Very, very true. All right, that wraps up my questions here. Let me pass you back over to Lindsay so we can kind of wrap things up.
All right. Well, I guess the one question that I haven't asked yet that you've kind of talked about is just that for anybody that's listening and thinking, yeah, I got to get into this Kindle Scout thing, do you have any tips for them on how to be more likely to be considered?
Okay, tips. Like I said, I talked about professionalism of the package. I know that actually some of the Scout winners who participate on Kboard had apparently talked about my presentation beforehand, because I thought it looked really pro and I'd done a good job in showing that, and they thought, she's going to be a winner, and I'm, going, well, no, because this is just what you do. But that real kind of thing really does stand out, as I understand it, so that's part of it. I cannot stress enough, copy editing, copy editing, copy editing. Has anyone heard me say that? It is so critically important. Now, I'm a terrible person to say that because I did my own copy editing. And they sent me early edits and said, this is all you're getting. Your manuscript is really clean. But I have a cum laude bachelor's degree in English. I have been a proofreader and a copy editor for every job I've ever had unofficially, because they've never been specifically. So despite the fact that I did my own, I'm uniquely qualified. And unless you have my exact qualifications, copy editing, copy editing, copy editing, because really it's critical. And each of the Kindle Scouts has said the same thing in their books, is that I put in a book that was just like my friend's book, but I had mine copy edited. And my friend thought it was good enough. So, you know, that's like the important thing, I think, really. Be ready for it, because they want a publication-ready book. And that's the most important thing. And they also like it if it adheres to the Chicago Manual of Style. So if you're not familiar with the Chicago Manual of Style, you want a copy editor who is.
All right, sounds like some great tips. And where should people come visit you online, and which book of yours do you think they should check out?
They really shouldn't visit me online, but if they
If they must.
but if they feel compelled to do so, I'm on Facebook as Jill Nojack. I don't have like a writer's page. My friend page is that's all there is. So people can be my friend unless I really look at them and go, ooh, no way. In which case I would, wouldn't say hello, and you can be my friend. But and also jillnojack.com is where I talk about my my writing about, once every year. So there is occasionally that sparsely updated blog, and but I can be contacted there as well. So there's a contact form and that kind of thing, and I always do keep people updated on the books at least, and can sign up for my mailing list for my new books notification list. So that's always critically important, and I'm sure that your listeners will be like, oh yeah, I want to be on that.
They're already scared. They're like, I'm not sure if I'm cool enough to be her Facebook friend. I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm like very cool. Yeah. I think odd. That was a euphemism for odd, wasn't it?
All right, well, I will put the links in the show notes on marketingsff.com, and this is, I believe, episode 53. So anybody that wants to check out your books, come on by the site, and I'll have links to all of them, and we appreciate you coming on and giving us the scoop on Kindle Scout.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good night.
All right, you guys all take it easy. Thanks for all the info, Jill.
You're welcome.
Good night, all.